I want to add to the demo a new kind of health demonstration. These are objects that have a health bar and damage numbers attached to them. So you've got a pop-up launcher for the numbers and a target for the value bar. That sounds confusing. The health gradient or health bar panel fade are here. Visual. Where's that? What's showing the colours? Because I'm on the game. Here we go. So in the scene, here we see a scalar panel, etc., with these value bars attached. The pop-up panels, one just has a text, that's the numbers. It's pop-up panel robo, which is Roboto script. Somewhere on here you'll have the Roboto script on the text of this widget. They've got some colors and stuff, text data, set the colors, and here's the gradient. Oh, sorry, here's pop-up panel image. We have an image behind it, which is just something I drew like a star shape, and similar red or green text datas, effect datas. Each have an effect which affects how they move once spawned. So let's see those anyway, so you can visualize what the two are. They're in the demo. You've probably seen them before if you looked. What's going on though is, see, these are a bit different. These ones are spreading out. The images are spreading out a bit better. These are very raw. The Roboto damage numbers on the gradient health bar are kind of not spreading out so well. What you can see, the positioning of them is it's to do with the offset data. You got levels of offset data. So on this one, on the gradient, what you have is, this is your raw. You have these on targets also, target offset datas, and you only need like 100 above it, so they're not on top of the object. You set them down at 50. See how close that looks. You know, it's a bit tighter to the object. If it was 0, what you find is they're surrounding the object. In this case, they are surrounding the object. That's to do with another thing. The other one is objects. Now, setting them 100. Now, this is in terms of meters above the object in Unity. So, like 10 meters above. I think that's the scale. It's all in meters. So, you know, it's when you zoom around. That's thinking not in terms of the screen space so much as trying to track these objects with the camera mouse motion. Can you see that's maintaining a position that's not in pixels, it's in space above the object, distance directly above the object, or XYZ above the object. So it could be 100 to the right, but that's in game space. Now that's in world space as well, so it's possibly a bit. I could change it so it's like in terms of forward. Can you see, like the XYZ plane is always in world space, not relative to the object. I may add that as an option. That in fact I probably will, just a click button so that you can say, alright, it's actually in terms of not world space, i.e. left, right, and up and down within the world. It's all relative to the object, so it could be left of the object. Do you see what I mean? The notion of the forward of the object. But anyway, that's in XYZ, so if that's confusing. I usually set it 10, just 10 above the object without any X or Z, just the Y axis. So it's a bit above it in the object space, which gets you like that. Could be 20. So it's always a bit above the object. And as long as your objects don't rotate too much. That's always kind of up and down in world space, always the wisest, the most sane kind of axis to deal with. But then you can add in camera space, which is always relative to the camera, so it's always like 100 above it in the camera space. Now that doesn't change. That does achieve the, which it's not now relative to the motion or the forward, what you perceive as forward for the object. It's now relative to the screen as you look at it. So in terms of your view, it is always X or Y, it is always left, right, or up and down to your view of the object. Yeah, which is like the camera offset. So I often have these at 100 and this at 10 just to get some clearance above the object. What's next? Why are they spreading out? That's to do with the pop-up offset data. Now here you can create patterns. You can add as many of these as you want. So what I've got here is I could create more of a diamond. This will now perform like a diamond shape. Can you see there's now 4 points that are spawning numbers, yeah? I could now change the target offset to 0. Let's just 0 that a bit. So now you have this diamond more directly around the object. Yeah, so we'll stick with that for the moment. It's sequence forward, sequence backwards. It's because more than, you see sometimes they spawn on the, you know, there's more spawning than spawn points. So there's more numbers spawning and you want to read all those numbers. So it's now with effects, you can add as many of those as you want. And you could set it to random, so it randomly rotate through them and not repeat the last choice. I think they're both using the same because this has now gone to the same pattern. See, because these are scriptable objects, the other one is also using Popup Data's 100S. I can change that to whatever Popup Data B is, so it's back to its old pattern, so it's not doing the diamond on the images, they're now back to whatever Popup Data B is showing. Oh, an even weirder pattern. I think I like this kind of triangle above kind of thing with a bigger scale. And you can scale these this way, you can make them massively spread out. If we're looking at the images now, oh, they're off the screen, they're so spread out. There we go. See, they're really spreading numbers out around the object. It won't look so weird if you're closer to it. There is a scaling of this also that you can control, which is the general scaling of the numbers. I'm not sure what's applied here, but there you can see these are all methods of, you can see it quite well with the images actually, how spread out it is. But if I return to these guys, these Roboto numbers now in the diamond around it, it's actually the effect. It's the adding of the effect, not to the pop-up launcher, but to the widget down here, the pop-up panel Roboto, effect datas, effect floats. We're back on this. Now we're using scale, so look at the numbers that spawn. They're changing in scale, they're getting smaller towards the end as they shrink out of view. You can switch that off. They always say this stay the same scale. Use offset. Now offset spreads them out. This is where you got these X and Y curves that are in screen space, and that's now you're spreading out these numbers as they spawn. They're rotating. We can switch the rotation off. Maybe that'll make it a bit clearer. What kind of effect you want is to do with the effect data you have applied. Hopefully these all split apart. It's just a random script for movement, but they tend to kind of align sometimes with each other and travel parallel quite closely. But here we go. You can see that's the offset fading. I'm not sure if there isn't a fade curve applied. Use a scale. I mean, you can change these to crazy stuff if you want. Let's try some more boring stuff. Like just falling. These are like more, you know, bouncing patterns. Because one's now random and the other's like just drifting to the side. Can you see that? So you can create all kinds of weird number spawning patterns using these offsets. Increase the scale of them again. Oops, that's going to be too big. All over the place. You can just make these numbers really bounce around. You know, you just play around with these and get something you're interested in. It's pretty logical. It's in X and Y screen space, so you can see that. What I wanted to move on to was combining two. So I wanted to have both of these. I'll duplicate these and switch these off. I want to create one with two sets of number launchers on the same cube. Now to do this, I need to, don't have a move on the other one, reset its transform, make sure the transform's reset for any kind of nested thing. The pop-up launcher, you don't need a target script anymore. You don't need a move script anymore. I also want to remove the mesh from the nested one. So now we just have one mesh with its target, the health bar. It's a pop-up launcher, a pop-up test, and a movement script for the whole object to move the cube around. And the nested one, which just has another pop-up launcher, the second pop-up launcher, and its pop-up test. So these are different variations of the random numbers, you know, so they've got different random numbers being spawned. That's all these scripts do. So let's have a look at that. How's that looking? Hopefully it's worked. Yeah, so this is how you'd have one object spawning both of these things. Right, there's an interesting feature once you dig into it. The fact that it has target, the second set of numbers are not affecting this health bar unless I attach its target, in which case they will, and I probably need to restart. I'll probably have to add this target to this for it to affect this. I'll try and do that just so you can see if it makes much of a difference visibly. Okay, so that's just a little script in the demo that is kind of, so the numbers are now affecting, they're both affecting the health bar. You might notice this if I really slowed them down. I think it's like you reduce the chance of each. So there's less of those numbers spawning, chance in 1,000, random amount. I'm not 100% sure these work. I think the random amount is like positive or negative. Random is less than chance in frames times 2. It's a bit weird, isn't it? Chance in frames times 2. Randomly, that's rand, so that's always in 1,000. Random amount is the amount of damage. Yeah, so 1 is like the minimum. It's not too hot, is it? It's a bit, the speed of these is always going to be quite fast, I think. But now there's less spawning. You see, it's less often numbers being spawned. They still do though, quite regularly. They seem to go through patches. of it, where they're spawning more or less. But anyway, that's two sets of numbers spawning on the same object. You just have two pop-up launchers.